a friend of Momentum Builders, a friend of Don and mine, and business partners back since 2007. I think we worked together, Khai. Uh,
Yeah.
and we just had dinner together not too long ago and said, let's spend some more time together. And the things that Khai and I and Don were discussing at dinner with Craig Davis, I mean, Power Table, um, was really talking about how things are changing and what it's going to take to win on a go forward basis. That's the reality of what we're facing is we're in an evolving market. We decided evolve was the right word.
Hmm.
We're in an evolving market, and we just have to make a choice. Are we going to evolve along with it, or are we going to stay status quo until we age out? And that's the reality. That's a choice that you have to make personally. Hopefully, today, Khai can give you some insight, mindset, and tools to help you be one of those that evolves into the future. So, Khai, thank you for joining us today, buddy.
Yeah, I love being back. And if you ever have a chance to have dinner with Gino, it's quite the experience. You just sit back, let him order, and just food comes to you. And he
PMD
tries to keep the bill reasonable. It wasn't that bad, actually.
wasn't terrible, right?
No, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be a lot worse, but it was really good. It was very reasonable for a fancy steakhouse.
I think it's because I quit drinking. That saved us at least $300.
You know, I told somebody about that. He said no way. He says, well, there really wasn't a lot of alcohol. There it is, right? So, uh,
But yeah,
but
it's called Put the Menu Down for you guys that want to know. It's
Mhm.
called a PMD experience. Just show up, sit down, and I'll feed you.
Put the menu down. One of the things that I've seen about, I think one of the interesting things about evolution and a lot of the debate that I've seen in the mortgage industry is traditional versus modern, right? It's just always that debate. Are we going to do business the traditional way? Or are we going to do business the modern way? And what is the traditional way? It's the phone calls, it's the appointments, it's the meetings, it's going after the agents. And what is a modern way? Well, we've got AI now, we've got social media, we've got technology, we've got click funnels, we've got all that stuff. But here's the thing that I see, and it's very, very polar. For some reason, hard work is associated with traditional, not modern. That's the thing that I want to talk about right now, Gino, because what happens is when you show somebody the modern way, social media, something like that, somebody else will say, you don't need all that fancy stuff. You just got to pick up the phone and work hard. But why does work hard, why is that only associated with traditional? Because working hard is just effort. And the reality is that if we all worked hard and put that same effort into the new tools that we have, you can create amazing, amazing traction. Some people that we know from like the Denise Donahues who have created just major social media exposure, even momentum builder using it yourself myself. So why is working hard only associated with traditional? They're not mutually exclusive,
No.
right? So I tell people if you put the effort into it and you create some badass modern advanced stuff, you're also going to be badass while doing a hybrid of traditional relationship work.
Yeah, I think the word is productivity. That's
Correct.
really what we have to look at. So if you take a measure of the old way,
Hmm.
that's 1x, right? And if you take the modern way, you take the same amount of time, the same amount of hard work, and you can get 10x.
Yes.
Because what it really does is what the new way is a one to many approach. It allows me to be in more places at more
Leverage.
time. That's all it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to start with this stat. Um, I have a client who did 186 loans for the year. Okay. All purchase business. Now, if this was 2007, how many realtors referred 187 loans, Gino?
Not many. 100,
20?
yeah, few.
20 to give you 187. How many in today's world, how many realtors actually refer those 187 deals today?
184.
105.
Yeah.
105 was the number, right? So here's why that's a big number. If you want to do 50 loans, you need like 35 realtors. If you want to do 100 loans, you need like 65 realtors. Okay, got a second number for you. Out of the 105, how many only referred my loan officer client one loan for the entire year because that's all they did?
At least 70.
70 is the exact number.
Oh,
Right. So here's the thing. Let's just say that you decide to do things the traditional way. You're going to call an agent. You're going to do a coffee appointment. By the way, I have no qualms about that. There's nothing wrong with that. However, you have time for 100 coffee appointments. Multiply that by four, at least four. You're going to have 400 coffee. You're going to be so amped up in caffeine. Here's the second thing. Who wants to have a coffee appointment with somebody who might do one transaction for the entire year? That's a really hard case. So what do the traditionalists say? Well, we're going to look up MMI and we're only going to go for the producers. But if that was the case, my client would have done 70 less loans. Instead of 187, he would have done 117. So you want the onesie twosies. You do. In this market, you want the onesie twosies. Sometimes the onesie twosies are actually the coolest realtors, right? Because they're so appreciative. They're your friends. They finally get that deal. But here's the thing. If you're not in front of them in October when they finally get that one deal, then they're going to forget about you. So we need to use tools, modern tools, to stay in front of people, to reach out to people. That's where we do webinars. That's where we do social, because we have to cast a bigger net. Because if we only go traditional, again, you're only getting half of the pie. And if you say, well, I only need to do that, I can just work hard, like, right, and you're working twice as hard for half of the pie, when if we apply the other half of our effort toward modern strategies, then we get big, especially if you're in a depressed market. Like if you're in Boston, anybody here knows in Boston, right? I mean, just there's no inventory. So you got to get licensed in Connecticut. You're going to drive to a Connecticut Starbucks, or you're going to learn how to have virtual meetings. You're going to learn how to have webinars and everything like that. And we haven't even really gotten into it. We're just talking in principle now, right? It's a one to many lever strategy.
So the one thing I'm really done a lot of research on too is what you're talking about. The traditional way was us later in the funnel.
Yeah.
Now the modern way is us trying to get to the top of the funnel,
Yeah.
to throw things in the top of the funnel. How many times did you and I present HBM?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? A million times. And so we were always late in the funnel. And so today, going consumer direct to some extent, it's putting us higher up in the funnel. And that's why we have to reach more people. The consumer will validate us because the referral from the realtor is not enough. So you need a public presence for validation. So I think a hybrid approach, Khai, is definitely the way to go.
Absolutely.
For your whales, have coffee. For your whales, take them to dinner, take them to sporting events, hang out with them, become friends. But for those that you're only expecting one loan from, stay in touch, use a one-to-many modern approach, make sure you're in front of them. My favorite word right now as it relates to marketing is omnipresence.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's really about creating balance. And so I created a framework for this. I call it the anti-cold call approach, not because I'm against cold calling, but we often forget about the other ways, and the other ways work for us. Okay. Like I was telling Gino, this is actually a 2-hour presentation, but I'm not going to do the entire 2-hour presentation, but I'm going to pull up some of the slides. But I did put the nice momentum builder here.
Yeah, buddy.
So I created the modern loan officer framework. And the thing about the modern loan officer framework is, number one, I have to remind everybody that there's other parts of the business that will create business for us, because we always forget. Because for some reason, we always default toward cold calling realtors. And let me just pause for a second. Why do we do that? And I'll be honest with you, because it's the laziest approach. Think about it. Because all you need is a script and a phone. It's the laziest approach. People don't want to actually put in the effort of doing other things. Now, some of the things that I'm going to show you, you're going to say, well, that's not really modern, Khai. That's kind of traditional. Yes, but times have changed. Okay, so let's talk about the 6. If you guys just remember anything, remember these 6 and just tell yourself, I have to have balance. So the first thing, and some of these are proprietary to like my systems, but you have to have some type of good tracking system. I think, Gino, you've been coached a lot. You follow the different programs. Everybody has some type of coaching system. I mean, tracking system, right? Whether it's what is it? I call it the magic tracking system. That's my proprietary system. We've got like the Blue Beast. We've got, all the different tracking systems, Win by Noon, everything, but you have to have that. And whether it's in a notebook like Win by Noon, or you have a spreadsheet, or you have some gamified system, if you track it, it will grow. And I have to remind people of that. Okay. 2, transaction multiplier. What is that? We can get new transactions out of the transactions that we have. So when you're in escrow, when you're under contract, are you remembering to ask for referrals? Are you remembering to set up the meetings with the listing agents? Are you being introduced to the financial planners, the CPAs, things like that? Now, again, not modern because it's hybrid, But I'm reminding people those things still exist. There's a reason why people still love the 80s. You got to bring retro back into play. Okay. Now, the next one is definitely a modern twist. Database pull through. Database pull through is big. So the average consumer wants a new loan every 5 years, wants a new loan. Okay. That means however big your database is, if you have 1,000-person database, that means every year 200 people want a new loan. They want a new loan. Let's cut that in half though. High rates, high prices to 10%. Okay. And then let's cut it in half for conversion. But what that means is still 5% of your database, at a minimum, 5 to 10% of your database should be your loans for this year without ever getting a new lead. So if you have 1,000-person database, 5 to 10%, you should start the year at 50 to 100 loans. Now, that is not anything new, right? We've been talking about databasing forever. But how has that changed in modern marketing? We've got Go High Level, we've got Bonzo, we've got AI, we've got so many tools to nurture your database, not only automatically, it can talk to people automatically, but we're not using it, right? So people say, well, just pick up the phone and work hard. Yeah, but here's what happens. So you remember when we worked together at Skyline Financial and Skyline Home Loans, so many different names, Finance of America. Remember in 2009, we had that refi boom. It lasted like one day. Interest rates were like 7%, and it went down to like 5 1/8 for like one day. I think you remember the day. I remember everybody in the office just started picking up the phone and calling and calling and calling and calling. Here's what I did. I queried my database, ACT, because that was the fancy database back in the day. I said, give me everybody with an interest rate over 5 7/8. I sent out one blast. Then I started calling. As I'm calling, people are calling me back. Next day, we're in the lunchroom, in Calabasas. Everybody's like, oh, I turned in 3 loans. I turned in 4 loans, 24 hours. Khai, how many did you turn in? 12. Because I had technology working for me, right? So we do all have our database, but we've got this technology that can help automate this. Like, what is the next mass thing that you have to do? You want to just be able to turn on that Bonzo, turn on that loan officer AI, and just let it go. Heck, with AI, with like Go High Level, you can even have it take the questions in the discovery call for you and just let it talk for you,
Yeah.
right? But it's bringing back the tradition. It's bringing back the tradition. Okay, what's next? Modern leader positioning and the modern partner playbook, they go together. So let's talk a little bit about the modern partner playbook. I have a system that I talk about, which is like the ABC system when it comes to realtors. Okay, so an A realtor, Gino, is somebody that gives you business. I want everybody to think about how many A realtors they have. A B realtor is all the realtors that friend zoned you. We've all been friend zoned at some time in our life. They're not giving us business, but we know them. They're probably one of your friends. You probably go to basketball games with them. They still don't give you business. C realtors are the ones you don't know. But the common strategy is to cold call the C ones and turn them into A's. I've become the master of getting people out of the friend zone. Okay? Because we just don't know the system to get them out of the friend zone. And actually, one of the reasons why people don't get people out of the friend zone, it's kind of odd. People are willing to do these. If you think about it, Gina, it's really odd. You'll take a script that's very hard selling. You'll say it to a C because you don't know them, because you kind of don't care. But you're not willing to say the same script to realtors that you know. That's also an odd thing too. Like, does that make sense what I'm saying? It's really weird. But anyways, so the system that I say is like, you don't go from C to A. What you do is you try to create as many realtor friends as possible. Because if I gave you a system to turn those people into the A realtors, right? And I'm gonna talk about that system in the first place. And so how is that modern? Because, in today's world, we have social media, such an easy way to create friendships. I mean, how many realtor friends do you have across the country? How many loan officer friends do you have across the country? And I don't need to go to coffee to get to know people. It's a DM. I'm going to comment on the fact that, nice dinner that you had with Khai and Don in Vegas. We create friends. Everybody here can create 100, 200 agent friends with social media, just sitting on their phone typing, because we can. And then if there's a methodology to then convert them, and I'm going to show you the methodology, then it makes more sense. But it's always better to convert warm relationships. Now, do you remember Tom Bass? Do you remember that name, Tom Bass? Okay, so back in the day, Tom Bass He taught me this. It was the 5x5 system. So what we did was we did 5 postcards, 5 days a week for 5 weeks. We would send it to the agents. So they would get 25 pieces of mail from us. So when I actually called them for the first time, it wasn't cold. They had seen my name, and I probably went to some association event and they saw my name. So it was never cold. It was never cold. That's why it kind of fascinates me why people want to go cold. You and I used to go to those events in Woodland Hills, and then we would send them the postcards. Well, that's what social media is for, right? And that's the modern playbook because you have to use these tools. And here's also the thing is that when people do get the appointments, I always hear this too. I don't know what to do from here. Do I call them every 3 weeks and be like, where's the referral? Well, I'm going to show you a little bit of that system in a second. But before I show you that, but that's also what social media is there for, right? I'm going to tell you guys this, if instead of picking up the phone and even texting an agent, go to their social media, see what's going on in their lives, and then DM, hey, congratulations. I see your daughter's graduating from high school. That's the conversation because it gives us so much intel to create the deeper relationships. Okay. Now, I'm going to tell you guys,
There for a second because
yes.
where we fail. I've asked people to do that 25, maybe 30 different ways.
Yeah,
And they don't do it. And
I
so
know. I know. We're gonna address that.
that's what, because that's the reality the reality that we've got to come to terms with is that
Mhm.
we know what to do.
I know.
Do it. And I'll use myself as the perfect punching bag. I knew that if I put less food in my mouth, I would lose weight.
Yeah, exactly.
40 years to make that decision. So it's all about making a decision.
We're gonna talk about that too because there's a sixth piece of it. But I will say that there's certain things that not everybody knows. At least they've heard it, but they just needed a framework for it, right? I'm gonna give you a really, really simple framework, and it is a bit it is modern. So in my ABC system, I'm gonna scroll down to this. And for those that you that are looking at this, I do have if you guys want this PowerPoint, I'm gonna show you a way to get the PowerPoint, okay? So there's 4 ways we can convert people out of the friend zone, and these are the 4 things that we need to do. And I want to show you this. So the first way, there's 4 things that you need to do. The first thing that you need to do is you need to demonstrate to the agent that you're better for their buyers than anybody else. Because if you think about it, no matter how much quote unquote value you provide to them, they're going to want to know that you still do a really good job with the buyer, right? Now, Gino, there's probably a lot of things that you do that is better for the buyer than your competition. Let's say we can name a few, right? Maybe you do a housewarming gift, right? Maybe you do a total cost analysis using Mortgage Coach. Maybe you do a really dynamic pre-approval offer so you help them win the offer. But we talk about it, but what you need to do is you need to create a presentation for it. I want to show you something. This is from 2000, around 2007-ish, 9-ish when we used to work together. This was a binder that I used to have. What I did was everything that I did for agents, I literally printed it out so I can sit with an agent and say, I want to take you through the client experience. And they would see the cover letters, the total cost analysis. They would see the thank you letters. They would see all the little things that were involved in creating a good client experience. And, like I'll give you one example of it. This is one of the things that my clients does is that when he works with the client, he says, I've got a roadmap for you. It looks like this, right? Like it's cool. So you have to create a presentation for that so that you can demonstrate that when you're in a meeting. I used to actually bring that binder, and I have a client who just did it. She put it on an iPad with a PDF because that's what it looks like today. And the agent said, I've never seen anything like that. That gives me an idea, the experience. I want my clients to have experience. I'm going to start sending people to you because I want people to have that experience. And so everybody here that's listening, you're probably good at what you do. You've just never documented it and put it in a presentation and say, here's what I do. And then talk about it, put it on social, share it, give it away, put it on your website because you have to show that off, right? And we're good at so many things, we just don't know how to show it off. That's number one. Number two is there's an equivalent for that with the agents. I had another binder. Here's my other binder, but there's a digital way to do it too. This was my partner binder. These were all the different ways that I helped business partners elevate their business, escalate their business, right? Whether it was collaborative open houses, mutual events, things like that. And, um, everybody's like, when I was asked, well, how do you provide value to agents? There's really a lot of ways you can provide value to agents. You can help them with lead management, post-close marketing, joint webinars, collaborative social media, making offers competitive, helping with their listings. Like there's so many things. If you just took the time to write them down and then make a presentation about it, but also now go out and push it and show it and invite them and help them.
So I'm going to say go back
Yeah.
2 shows and watch my show with Jeff Simper,
Yeah.
and then put that strategy, create that strategy in AI,
Yeah.
make the bullet points that you want, throw it into Gamma,
Yeah.
and boom, there you go. There's your
Yeah. So you have 10 ways that you provide value to agents and 15 ways you provide value to consumers. Take each of those pieces, build out a Bonzo campaign that'll just drip over the next 25 weeks. Those agents will start to see it and go, man, like Gino's doing way more than anybody else. Okay, so we're utilizing the value. So those are two things. So number one, show the value to the buyers. Number two, show the value to the agents. Number three is exactly what you said. You beat me to the punch. Now you automate it and you remind agents on a weekly, on a monthly basis, because that one agent that's going to do the one deal in October, they're going to forget about you. But when that drip comes in and that testimony comes in, and always remember this, proof over promise. Proof over promise means do a lot of testimonials and how you've helped people, how you've helped people buy, get off the fence and solve problems and finally buy that first home. Keep dripping that. That's part three. You have these cool things, but you have to be in their face all the time. Part four is the one that people actually struggle with the most, and it's kind of crazy. You actually have to have the words come out of your mouth and ask for the business. It's really hard. It is. And I think that's why a lot of people get stuck in the friend zone. It's like you don't want to, I don't know, I don't want to ask her on a date because it may muck things up. Who cares? This is business. This is the business world, right? Like you just gotta come out of your mouth. Especially, here's the thing, especially if they see a piece of content that they like, or you talked about something that they liked. You say, well, I would like to provide this service to your buyers. Are you talking to a buyer this week that I can help pre-approve and provide this solution for them? If those words aren't coming out of your mouth on a regular basis, you can't convert them. And so those four things, okay, is I see people do two of them, one of them, three of them, but nobody does all four. You do all four, you go from B to A. You could, in theory, take from somebody from C to A, but what I can tell you is everybody here listening has at least 200 friend zone agents that are way easier to reach out to than some cold agent that may or may not even pick up the phone.
And here's some easy scripts for that, Kai. I mean, I just did this for our team. I told them, I said, give me a list of 10 people you've worked with in the past that you're not working with right now and you'd like to work with again.
Right.
Because I have a lot of those. Because I don't originate anymore, I have an even bigger friend zone than
Yeah.
everybody because I'm not a threat.
Yeah.
Technically, I'm not a threat.
Yeah.
But so they get one of the guys gave me a list, and at the top of his list was I was like, dude, I see that guy at the gym every single day.
Yeah.
And I talk to him every single day. So all I did was go up to him and be like, "Hey man, can we go to coffee together?" And I'm doing it the old way because I see him at the gym every day. I was like, "Hey, can we go to coffee together?" He goes, yeah, yeah, sure. That's all I had to say. I didn't say
Mm.
why or I have something to talk to you about or nothing. I just said, "Can we go to coffee together?" He said, "Sure." We went to coffee together, and I said, "Hey, someone on my team mentioned they used to work with you in the past, and they'd love to work with you again. Would you be willing to give us a shot?" And he goes, and of course, we had a 2 hour conversation about wonderful things and everything. And he goes, "Yeah, of course. Well, we have a pipeline with him now." And that was just 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
But I
I think what
asked
people,
for the business on behalf of my loan officer who could have made that phone call and asked for it himself, but he was scared to.
I know. Here's the thing about agents. I always compare business with dating. Agents are like beautiful women. They're used to being asked. And if you don't ask, it's almost like, you know what I mean? Like, why didn't you ask? And even if you ask, what are you worried about? They're being asked all the time, but you have to ask. You have to ask. Here's another thing about agents
Our
that
belief system, our belief system takes us immediately to regret and rejection and pain, and that's what it does. Is it shows you the worst case scenario, and that's what holds us back.
well, here's the thing about that, because when you want to talk about mindset, it's not the rejection, the pain, the judgment. that prevents us from doing it again. I want everybody to remember this. What it does is it triggers, okay, here's a point in time. You and I will both get rejected by somebody. Now that event has no meaning if you think about it. We have to assign meaning to that. It just happens. It's just decibels coming out of a person's mouth. We have one or two choices. This is where most people fall. They get discouraged. That's the D word. They get discouraged, or you get encouraged to do it better. If you change the trigger and you get encouraged to improve, you completely change your neural pathways to come back to make it better. And so we've defaulted to discouragement, or sometimes we just try it again, but the definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different result, right? So that discouragement is what hurts us more than anything else. But what people have to remember too is, I talk about this a lot, but introverts, extroverts, ambiverts are kind of in the middle. Okay. What an ambivert is, like me, we have the ability to be an extrovert, but it kind of drains us by the end of the day. We want to be an introvert. There are, when I look at loan officers and agents tend to default closer to extrovert, if not fully extroverted. Loan officers tend to default ambivert, closer to introverts. Of course, there are some extroverted loan officers. So why does that matter? Well, we're that way for a reason, because we like numbers. Agents are like, I like to show people around. I want to become a real estate agent. We're like, I like numbers and structure. I want to become loan officers. And so we don't connect with the fact that they're extremely social. We try to almost logically, slide our way into their lives, when sometimes it's just about the relationship. I remember this one time, I'm out here in Austin, and I met an agent. And at the time I was a branch manager. So I had loan officers that worked for me. So I didn't do loans, but I wanted to get, I wanted to create loans for my branch managers. I mean, for my loan officers. I played golf with this guy for like 2, 3 months. We went to dinner, and then over dinner we started talking about his business, and he started asking me for advice. I gave him some tips on, how to run his business and do this. And so finally I looked at him and I said, "Hey, listen, we haven't talked about this yet, but who do you do your loans with?" And he goes, "Man, I knew that was going to come up." I says, "Well, you don't mind, do you?" He says, "No, no, I don't mind." Why? Because we've got this friendship. It's comfortable, right? So then I told him about it, and I says, "What do you think about doing loans with our branch, etc.?" And he said, "You know what? I've got a lender that I've worked with for 5 years. He's absolutely dependable. He's never let me down. Always close on time. Is super dependable." So in my head, I'm like, "Oh, here it goes. This is like he's going to turn me down." And he said, "But I'm going to give you a shot." Do you know why? I said, "Why?" He said, "Because for the 5 years that I've known the lender, he always texts me and like asks me what's up. But there's always this air of like, it's just business. He's never taken the time to be my friend. I just appreciate the fact that you've taken the time to be my friend. We golf together, we're having dinner together. And that means something to me, because business is just a little bit more fun, right?" So we've taken the social aspect. We've taken the social aspect out of social media too. It's like we just want to post on social media when we need to actually comment and engage and be involved in people's lives. And I'm going to tell you this, if you're going to be picky with realtors that you work with, I actually would be less picky about their volume and be more picky about, do you have things in common? Because you're going to enjoy working with them. It's going to be easy for you to talk to them. It's going to click better. You're going to find that the conversations and asking them for business is easier.
So think about this for a minute. Social media,
Mm-hmm.
a social club.
Right.
Where would you get business? If you were a golf member at a club, you would get business at your club.
Yeah.
So why do you act differently on social? Alec Hansen said it on More Momentum a few months ago. He says, "Would you ever walk up to somebody with your hand out and say, 'I closed the loan in 8 days'?"
Yeah.
You would never do that. You would say, "Hi,
Yeah.
my name is Dino."
Yeah.
Right? You
Yeah.
would, so think about these things, right? Don't act different on social than you act in real life. Collect a social sphere that's the same sphere as you would collect in real life.
Yeah.
I really love what we're targeting is asking for the business from people that you already know, you like, you trust, you should be easier, not harder.
You should.
Yeah.
I've always been active on social media, and I always had this rule, like, I don't like to talk about business. I just like to talk about personal life. And I've made a lot of friends, whether it's golf, whether it's Lakers basketball, whether it's something like that. And it's funny because I've actually gotten a lot of business that way, but I've never posted anything in business. Well, something changed a few years ago where I took a break from social media, and then when I came back, I came at it a little bit different. I says, okay, I'm going to be a little bit more like post about business and stuff like that. And then I noticed, how come nobody's seeing my stuff anymore? Well, because I turned into that guy that turned everything into business when not only it wasn't just about the engagement, by the way, it wasn't just like I was less interesting to people. Facebook said, you're not engaging anymore like you used to. Because I used to put a joke up and people would engage, and then I would laugh at people's jokes, and it was all about that. And so it changed the algorithm as well, too. And so that social nature is not just how you connect with them, but the social media algorithms are changing because it like it knows that you're being selfish. It knows that, and it's like saying, well, if you want to do that, you got to pay, and then I'll show you to everybody, right? But if you're not being social, it's not going to happen. So I want to go back to modern leader positioning, which is this next part. So what is modern leader positioning?
Small
It's
hack,
this,
small hack there. Post your little figurine that you made for yourself, guaranteed to get 1,000 views
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
engagement and conversation, right? And somebody asked me, so why a goldfish? I said, well, it's a clownfish, and I actually have 2 saltwater tanks. So it's personal life is just much better to share on social media.
yeah. Did you see the one with like a Jose Altuve and it comes with like a trash can and all that stuff for you Astro fans? Anyways, so let's go to modern leader positioning. So what does modern leader positioning mean? Well, modern leader positioning, it breaks down the misunderstanding of social media. Social media there is for you to position yourself as a person, as a friend, but also as a leader. And here's what I mean, especially now because we have so much information out there. If being an expert isn't enough, because you're just going to get muted among all the experts. Okay. So just to say, by the way, I have this running joke that the first video starter pack on social media is why you don't need 20% down to buy a house. Like everybody else makes that first video, right? But we don't need to tell people things that are obvious. We don't need to tell people things that they can find on Google. We don't need to tell people things that they can find on AI.
My favorite one is the conforming limit has changed. That's good
No,
for
yeah, the
that
conforming
one.
limit has
Once
changed.
a year, every loan officer. It's good.
Yeah, yeah. And my favorite one is we got to move our clocks forward and back because of spring and fall, right? But what you need to be is a leader. And what's the definition of leader? Somebody that has an opinion. Somebody has an opinion, and this is what I think. People are afraid to be a leader because they're afraid of the hate, they're afraid of the judgment, they're afraid of being wrong. But I have this saying that I learned a long time ago. You can tell who the pioneers are because they have the arrows on their back, right? Because they tried to go across the country. And so if you state something, it's like an editorial. um, Tariffs are happening, or this would happen worse, and say this, just say this. This is what I think it means. This is what I think it means. Now, look, even Barry with MBS Highway, he's had a rough couple years because he's been trying to predict things. It's not his fault that whether it's the economy, the government, whatever, is just throwing things left and right. But as a leader, people still follow him when he's not right because he's willing to have the opinion. He's willing to say follow me. Okay. And so we use social media for modern leader positioning, but also not just social media, but also digital things. If I were to, and let me actually show you this chart first. This is a chart of the different generations from boomers, Gen X, millennials, Gen Z. Okay. Gino, you and I are Gen Xers, but look at how much social media has influenced, okay, buying decisions over the generations. Now look at this one. Look how much influencers had influenced buyer decisions. So it's not just what people consume, it's what people are saying. Whether it's Mel Robbins, Dave Ramsey, we may not like Dave Ramsey, but he's an influencer and he has an opinion and he's got a big following. Okay. So that's what we need to use it for. It's influencing our position and putting our position. But let me go back to an age-old one. This is one of my clients. He was a coach for me as well. But if I Googled you, what would I find? And when you're Tyler Osby and you have 1,298 Google reviews, you are the 800-pound gorilla in terms of being the lender in your marketplace. Okay. I mean, I would think in today's world, if you're south of 100, you're not significant, right? Like you have to be north of 100. And again, why? The millennials changed everything. They really, really did because they grew up with social media. So they were the first generation that social validated everything. I want everybody to pay attention to that when you work with buyers, notice your younger buyers always have to think about it a little bit more. Always, well, I heard this or my friend said this, because they have to validate everything. They're going to hang up the phone and they're going to Google you. They're going to look you. I know Gen Z buyers that have literally told me, I didn't pick that lender because he had no social media. No social media. And so we use social media for the positioning of ourselves and our business to show people that we're relevant, that we're around, that we can connect. Also think about the 32-year-old up and coming realtor. What's the first thing that they do, Gino? They start doing Instagram and stories and they do the latest TikTok trends. And if you're just like, oh, that's really nice, or let's do a collaborative social media video together. Let's bring in a drone. Heck, I'll dance with you, whether you know how to dance or not. It's funnier if you don't know how to dance, right? But you have to connect with the generation. The Gen Xers and the Boomers, they're a little bit more trusting to a fault. Because the boomers are always forwarding, these spam mails that if I don't send it to 1,000 people, things like that, right? Because they trust a little bit more. Okay. But you need the modern position to prove.
13,500,000 and something from Nigeria.
Yeah.
Not for me.
Right. Yeah. Or the text we get today, like, my name is, you didn't, so many spam texting, right? And so what I want to remind people is that I brought the framework because yes, there are things that we don't remember. And but it's a blend of traditional, but even the traditional things we've far advanced. So we do have the modern side here. We have the social, we have the digital playbook, and we do have the traditional side, but even this traditional side has changed so much, Okay. I want to give people an insight on my magic tracking system because I don't want to just overlook it. I know that people are used to using greatness trackers and all this stuff, but those are great. Win by noon, those things are great for measuring your output and your activity. But what is a tracker that you can use that will actually measure your consistency? We don't want peak and valleys, right? We don't want 2 loans and then 4 loans, then 2 loans and then 6 loans. So I'm going to give you guys a system for that. Here's what I want everybody to do. 3 numbers. How many loans do you have under contract? Take that number right now. Let's say it's 3. Okay. How many pre-approved active shoppers? Not somebody that you pre-approved a year ago, but they're actively shopping, putting in offers. How many of that number? Let's say that's 5, 3 and 5. Okay. And how many active leads you got? Let's say that's 4. Okay. We're going to take 3, 5, and 4, add it together, 12, and we're going to divide it by 7, roughly 2.8. That's how many loans you average a month over the next 3 months. Over the next 3 months. It's a factor of 7. Where did I come up with 7? Well, to fund 1 loan consistently a month, you need to have at least 2 loans under contract. You can't have 1 loan under contract because that means you'll have 0 for next month. You have to have 1 this month, 1 next month. Then it has to be replaced. Now, when I originally did it, was 2, 2, and 2, right? Because the shoppers replace the contracts, the actives replace the shoppers. But because of the market, because of inventory, because of high interest rates, the shoppers has to be a slightly bigger number. So it's a 2, 3, 2 factor. That's 7. If you want to fund 1 loan a month, 3 months in a row, your pipeline needs to look like this. Okay. Now, why is that important? Because if you're doing 2 loans a month, which is probably 4, 6, and 4, and you say, well, I want to fund 5 loans a month. You're not going from 2 to 5. You're going from 14 to 35. You need 21 more leads. 21 more leads. Okay. So this is my tracking system combined with whatever tracking system that you do. Everybody here would love to fund 2 more loans a month on average, right? On average. So 2 times 7 equals 14. I'm going to ask everybody this question. How fast do you normally get 14 new leads? How fast? Average number is anywhere between 3 weeks. I've heard as much as 6 months. Now, Gino, you're not a mathematician, but you know this. If it takes somebody 6 months, they probably average less loans. If it takes somebody 2 weeks, they average more loans because they can get 14 leads faster. Here's my first challenge to everybody here. I want you to think about your last 14 leads, how long it took you to get it. Let's say it took you 4 weeks to get it. My first challenge, without implementing necessarily anything new, but implementing what you know and working harder, can you cut that in half? Because if you can cut 14 leads from 4 weeks to 2 weeks, you will raise your average loan amount up higher faster. So now you utilize all the trackers like the greatness tracker, the win by news, things like that, and say, I got to do these activities to try to get my next 14 leads. But the magic tracking system is the litmus test for what your average is going to be. That makes sense? And so it's a race to 14 loans. Everybody always wants to increase their business by 2 loans a month, 2 loans a month, 2 loans a month. It's a race to 14 leads. 14
Kai,
leads.
I'll tell you one thing, or I'll stop you there for a second, because this is something that people really need to pay attention to. One thing is be careful with what comes out of your mouth, right? That Darren Hardy said, don't say stupid shit out loud. Whatever you say out loud is 80% more likely to happen than if you don't say it out loud. And one thing I hear, and I've told my team, is when I get on the phone, I just got 6 new deals. I'm like, and so I started asking, wow, 6 executed contracts in escrow? Like, no, six guys that called me that want to do something. I go, oh, 6 prospects.
Yeah.
That's cute. That's not 6 new deals. The
Now,
problem,
6 new deals is 6 times 7 equals 42.
that's right. So the problem in people's brains is that they think they're going to convert 100% of the leads, and that's not real.
Right.
That's not real.
Right. No.
So convert,
Yeah. And that's why the system is real. That's
yeah,
why the system.
conversion rate is something that you've got to focus on, measure,
Mhm.
track it, because there's only 2 problems in life: not
Yeah.
enough leads, poor conversion. That's it.
Yeah.
Those are the only 2 problems you could possibly have.
Yeah. So the conversion rate that people are used to is always like volume. Like if I talk to this many people, I'll get this conversion rate. That is true, but I'd rather measure it against how fast you can get 14 good leads in the shortest period of time. So when you put those together, then you can build the momentum builder. Then you have the momentum to really up your average number of loans, because we see it a lot where somebody says that they fund 5 loans and they got a big goose egg, right? Oh, you did amazing last month. You did 7 loans. But what does May look like, right? What does May look like? All right.
I'll tell
Let's
you,
look at the last part.
one of our guys right now is really focused, and he said, "Forget the he's got Jungo, he's got all the beautiful tools in the world, everything." He went back to a simple spreadsheet and says, "If I get 40 leads this month,
Yeah.
I'll do the closings I want."
Mhm.
That's it.
Mhm.
That's his only focus is I need 40 leads. And he'll call. He's doing it old school. He'll call until he gets 40 leads. But he knows that's the metric. He knows that's the number. Last month he reported back to me. He sent it to me. He's like, I only got 26, boss, but I'm gonna get 40 next month.
Yep. Yep.
You know?
I would sprinkle that with a little bit of new school too, where he does his posts, he does his engagement on the side. It's going to be a longer return, but it'll push his exposure, because you got to go one to many, because you want to get to a point where people know you before they know you before you know them. Okay. Like imagine if my coaching business was just me cold calling for coaching leads and it's always about a spread. No, no. This is exposure for me, right? This is getting the word out. So if you can and be a leader, be a podcast guest, start your own podcast, start a YouTube channel, but do them at the same time. And that's a thing that like you want to do both. You want to do both. It's like the guy that works upper body, he's got no legs. Bro, you skip leg day. Okay. To me, people that don't do modern stuff, you're skipping leg day. That's my new analogy. Okay.
Oh, that's hardcore, bro. Okay, we're gonna have to do a whole one that says, "Are you skipping leg day?" I love that. I could totally relate to
Don't
that.
skip leg day. Not in today's modern world. Because you know why? Think about it. In the 80s, we didn't need legs. But today, man, chicks want to see those quads. They want to see those legs. They want to see those six-pack abs. That's
Jeremy
like the social
Fortier,
media
Quad
today.
Villa.
Thin is in now. Thin is in. Thin is thin, like you. But I want to talk about the last thing. Okay, this is really, really important because this is actually how we started the conversation. And Gino, I'm super, super proud of you. When I think about a modern loan officer, they have a high focus on what I call breakthrough performance. Okay. I think that now people are more aware than ever about not just working hard, but what it takes to perform at the highest level. You look at athletes now, they have mindset coaches, they have strength trainers, they do the whole thing. So when I think about the modern professional, not just originator, but what is your nutrition like? Because your energy levels determine your momentum, but they also determine fear. When you're more tired, you're more fearful because your system's going to go into defense mode, right? So you have to have sleep, you have to have nutrition, you have to think about where your mind is. What are you reading? What are you consuming? Dan Martell's one of the greatest businessmen, 9-figure businessmen, has this podcast. He said something that blew me away a lot, because remember, people think it's very polar. Social media is bad. You're doom scrolling. You know what he said? He goes, I love social media. I scroll social media 2 hours a day. Now, if anybody told you that, Gino, you'd be like, are you crazy? He says, no, because I control the algorithm. I unfollowed all the bullshit. I only follow things that help me, and it's my university. It's my university, right? So what I'm saying is that we have these modern tools. So also we have these communities like Momentum Builder to up our mind today in so many different ways in an uplifting way. Social media is the greatest thing if you go on there and you make loan officer friends, you have them uplift you. But if you're caught in the bullshit of politics and everything's taken down, unfriend all those people or mute them, unfollow those IG accounts. We have the ability to make it. So breakthrough program is good. So I want to share a story with you.
Story on that. During
Yeah.
COVID, it was a very politically charged time, right? People were on both sides of the fence, and it was the vaccine or no vaccine. I don't care. So, but Nella tells me she goes, I hate social media. This is all trash. And I'm looking at mine, and all I see is steaks and
Yeah.
salami, cheese and charcuterie, and I'm like, I love social media. And so what I realized at the time is exactly what you said. The
Yep.
problem wasn't social media.
Yep.
The problem was her friends,
Yep.
right? And so, like right now, I want to learn more about AI. My entire feed is AI, all of it. There's
Yeah.
nothing in it that's not AI right now. And what
Yeah.
do? I set appointments. I talk to digital agents. I speak to agents that are doing different things. I booked my entire calendar this week, all with AI stuff. So social media can be your friend if you.
And by the way, it was hard for me to let go of the joke accounts, but I did. I unfollowed the joke accounts. I feel like I let a long lost pet go because I love jokes, but I was just spending time just reading jokes and memes and forwarding jokes and memes. Here's what I realized. I don't need to follow joke accounts because somebody's gonna forward me a joke anyways, right? So when I actively consume, I consume productive things that grow my brain. And then I check the DMs and like, oh, Gino sent me something funny. So, I kind of laugh at that, but I prevent myself from following that account, right? But I got a story that I gotta tell you because I want to know what yours is. Okay. So I want to talk about the catalyst. Catalysts are really, really important. So what is a catalyst? The catalyst is something that triggers a response. And so the best example that I can use is you have a bottle like Pepsi and you have a memento. You ever throw a memento in a bottle of Pepsi, but it just explodes because you asked a really important question. Why don't people do it? Okay. One of the things that I did, so I turned 52 March 25th. I know I look young, but I'm Asian and I dye my hair. Okay. I would normally have gray hair, but I'm really old. I'm 52. And when quarter one was over, I was like, dude, quarter one is over. So when quarter two, all of a sudden we blink and quarter two is going to be over. I realized two things. Number one is half of 2025 is going to be gone, another year. But you know what's also going to be gone? Another year of my life. And you and I are old enough that every year is precious now, and we're getting old enough where even people that we kind of know closely are passing away. This is I got to do something a little bit different. And so what I did was I committed to. I heard Alex Ramosi say this. He says, "I want you to disappear for 90 days and just work really, really hard, and when you come out, you'll become a better person." Well, I committed to that, and I can tell you, in the last 3 weeks, my life has changed. I worked harder in a way that I didn't know I was capable of. Like we hear about Kobe Bryant working out, and we hear all these interviews of I worked out with Kobe Bryant once, just once. That dude does it every single day. He's another gear, right? So here's my story. I had a guy call me on March 26th, right around the time that happened. And I said, hey, I just want to let you know, here's what I'm doing. And he called me, he literally, big dude, Hispanic dude, flat brim hat, wearing like Raider gear, a dude that, you may, kind of stay away from. He's on the street. But he was a loan officer and he looked totally defeated. He had his head down. He says, I've only done one loan in the last 3 months. I've let myself down. I let my family down. I don't know what to do. I want to call you about coaching, but I don't know that I can afford it. I said, all right, so you can't afford $1,500 a month for coaching. Can you afford $250? Because I've got a starter program for $250. You get online courses, you get weekly calls, and you learn my framework. He goes, yeah. So Rory McIlroy just won the Masters, and Rory used to tell the story about when he was young, his dad would always give him money to buy a bucket of balls. It'd be like 20 pounds. Well, one day his dad only had $5. So he gave him $5, and Rory says, what's this? I can only get like 40 balls. And he says, it's all the money I got, son. But I tell you what, make the most out of every ball, right? And he did, and that's why he's a Grand Slam champion. So I looked at Miguel and I said, you need to make the most out of 250. You need to pretend that I just gave you a hand-me-down set of golf clubs that your dad gave you. You went to some broken down ass range and you need to become a pro golfer. So when you sign on, you're going to watch every single online course. You're going to do the work. You're going to show up to every coaching call. And I promise you it'll change your life. Now, I say that to a lot of people. They don't always do it. March 26th happened. April 5th, his very first coaching call. He's on the coach. It's a group call. He says, hey, Khai, by the way, I have 2 loans under contract right now. And you know what his magic number was? His magic number was like 4. It was 13. He created 13 leads, 2 under contract in like 5 days. I was like, okay, this dude's serious. I'm like, what did you? He's like, well, I didn't mess around. As soon as I got into your coaching program, I watched the online courses. I started doing the work and I'm here. Last Tuesday, 7 days later, he went from 13 to 26. What's 26 divided by 7? He has 5 under contract. He's going to average 4 loans a month because he committed. And I said, how'd you do it? He says, well, I looked at he says, I have a shed in the back that I converted into an office. It's kind of like a garage. I told my wife, I said, my coach told me that I need to disappear for 90 days. So I want to get your permission that we're going to do that. We're going to agree to do that together. I'm going to have dinner with you. I'm still going to stay goodnight to you. I'm still going to say hi to the kids, ask them about their day. But once I go back to that shed, you won't see me till 11 p.m. Now I know it's a little extreme. I'm not promoting workaholic, but I said you need to do this for a period of time. Then you go back to normal because you have to. He goes, I did it. He goes, I'm tired, but I've worked more than I've ever worked before, and it feels great. Now here's the thing. The Pepsi bottle. That's your why. Everybody's got a why. Who cares? You need a stronger why. No, you don't. Everybody has a strong why. Pain. Everybody has pain. Everybody has bills. Everybody has a coaching program. Everybody has a coach. But none of that shit happens unless the catalyst triggers it. What was the catalyst? Just like you had pain, you had embarrassment, you had judgment, you had self-pity of everything of being fat, but there was a catalyst. And I actually want to ask you yours. But his catalyst was this. When he made the commitment and he verbalized it to his wife and they did it together, that's when he dropped the memento in there. And what I'm telling you guys is that I'm not the hero. You guys are the hero. I'm just the guide. But everybody needs their own catalyst, a catalyst of commitment. What was your catalyst, Gino? Because that's breakthrough performance. That's Kobe level shit.
So uh, sometimes it's something negative in life that's a catalyst, and then there's there's a catalyst is what gets something from standing still to inertia,
Yeah.
right? That's catalyst, and
Yep.
then sometimes you could pour an accelerant on it, and then you gain momentum, right?
Yep.
Two things that happened. One of them was when Finance of America shut down and our team fell apart and we had to relocate and find a new company in 20 days, protect our nest, protect our teammates, make sure that we found a safe place to go that wasn't going to shut down 6 months later, because that was a real concern at the time. Um, that was a moment of pain in which leaders have to rise. You can't be in fear. You have to be moving forward. And so I knew in that moment that I needed to be at peak performance if I was going to lead our team through a hard time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, I didn't exactly know what that meant, but I knew that I needed to be the best version of me. I needed to feel good about myself, because others can't feel good about you as a leader unless you feel good about yourself.
Yeah.
Right. So all those things that you mentioned, pain, self-doubt, embarrassment, all those things have to go out the window if you're going to be a great leader. You have to be able to leave those behind.
I mean, that's stirring up the Pepsi, but you had to find the catalyst in you.
And then, so I did that for about a year. And then after the last momentum builder, I had lost 40 pounds. People were proud of me, blah, blah, blah. But I had a moment in time, another moment that I wasn't proud of. I had too much to drink at a party at our office, came home, and fell on my own staircase going to bed. Broke 5 ribs, took 2 weeks off of drinking, supposedly.
Yeah.
Because I was like, well, I'm on pain meds, so I can't drink, and I'm not stupid. I'm not going to drink and do pain meds. I mean, there was no party going on my couch while I was sitting there in pain. I'm like a party drinker. I want to party and have a good time until 3 o'clock in the morning. Well, none of that was happening while I was in pain on the couch. But so those first 2 weeks went by, and then I don't know what happened. Now it's been like 16 months. And Kai, we went to dinner the other night, and I just haven't had a drink since. So that was an accelerant,
Yeah.
right?
You know, Tony Robbins says that we make moves when we're sick and tired of something, but we're always sick and tired of things. The catalyst, it's always a moment that you vividly remember the day, the time that you made the decision. It wasn't just a fleeting thought. It's you, everybody remembers that moment in time. Just like I remember the moment in time, like I remember 2 moments in time when people texted me that Kobe died, and when I was listening to the radio when Magic Johnson got HIV. Okay. I remember exactly where I was. I was driving to CSUN for one, I was home for the other, right? When I went to college. But everybody remembers that catalyst moment. And so the why and all that stuff, it builds the Pepsi. But the catalyst moment, there's always a moment, because it's that moment that you decided and you committed. And everybody needs that catalyst moment. And that catalyst moment is what triggers the breakthrough. And a modern professional today, a modern high achiever today, is so highly aware of his thoughts, his commitment, his physical nature, that it makes up the sixth pillar of the modern loan officer framework. And so I just wanted to come here and remind people that you can get away from the grind. You can actually scale your business and have it work for you. Some of it is the new stuff. Some of it is the old stuff remixed, rebooted in the digital version. But there's a commitment, there's a tracking system, and and if you do it in the framework, but more importantly, you said productivity. If we apply our effort to all of it, it works. It doesn't have to be polar. It doesn't have to be polar.
Yeah. Hey, I didn't realize it's 12 o'clock, man. We were just having a good old
That one
chat.
is good.
We could do this
I'm good at watching the clock because I do coaching calls all the time. I was like, okay, this is the time.
for
Really quickly, guys, I want to everybody here, if you go to connect with Khai, literally, I'll put it connect with Khai. I have my link tree, and my link tree, I want to be able to give everybody here. Let's see here. Is it here? Okay, here's my link tree. This is how I was promoting today. So I got people on the call. Right here, if you click here, you can download a copy of the framework presentation if you want it, okay? For a momentum builder. So I was pushing this, and then if you want this, just go to Connect with Khai. If you click this, you can get a copy of my presentation. You can read about the whole thing. You can read about the structure. You can see the scripts. You can see everything. Like I said, this is a 28 slide, normally 2-hour presentation. We went through about 5 or 6, but for the momentum builder community, I'll let you guys see the whole thing. And hopefully you'll figure out what your catalyst is this weekend.
All right. Hopefully they keep watching these every single week because it's always something of value. And I'm starting to see a common thread between all of us that we could pull together week over week over week. So I thank you all for taking the time today. Please make sure to keep joining us. Here's the next two that we have going on. I'm going to be out of town next week when Justin is on, so darn it. I'm not going to be available for that one, but I will be around when my friend Phil Treadwell comes around. So these are the next two upcoming sessions. Phil's a great mindset coach, man. He really gets people's brains in the right places. And of course, join us at Sales Mastery. We are at the point that we're about to start announcing speakers. We're super excited about it. It's going to be something totally different than everything we've done before. A combination and marriage of Momentum Builder and Sales Mastery is going to be something special.
I'll be there. 3-hour drive from Austin.
All right, buddy. Well, thank you much. I really appreciate it. Had a great time today. And guys, please do yourself a